I want this talk to be on trends and fads and people into falling into traps. Why I want to do this talk kind of got to me recently. I've seen new gyms opening up in Taoyuan, and I talked about this with some of my clients. Being here so long already, over a dozen years, we see gyms and fitness facilities come and go all the time. You know, it looks flashy. You'll be on Instagram, you see all these ads, the building will look beautiful. You know, they'll get influencers to open up the gym like right from the start. But when it comes down to it, when you look at the substance of what's going on, it's not really changing the mold. It's kind of just a little bit better from what was there before. Another thing that made me sort of catch on to this idea was, like, I went to the Vietnamese sport exhibition show. So it's like an exhibition where all these people, businesses and stuff like that, they're coming in trying to show what's new, what's popular, what's bumping, things of this nature. And when I went to this one, actually last month, it was basically pickleball was like 40% of the show. I guess like cycling was another 40%, and then 20% was like random stuff. But I made a post, and I talked about this in a video where I thought maybe pickleball would be a fad, but I wasn't sure yet. Like I figured it would have some like staying power, but with what I'm seeing in the trend in my neighborhood and going to this show, I do believe now it is a fad, just because there's so much adoption. Like every tennis court I go to now, they have pickleball courts. They're making pickleball court businesses. And yeah, so I think, you know, in Vietnam, you get these sort of like copycat people. Like when they see something working, they'll just do it because they'll think it works and they think it's a good business idea. And now we're starting to see that influx of copycat stuff. What else am I seeing? I'm seeing new basketball courts popping up in our area and also in Ho Chi Minh City. And while I think this is great for people like me and for people that play basketball, again, I think people are just missing the boat and they're not looking at the big picture. Again, they're just sort of doing like, this is what has always been going on. We're just gonna make it like marginally better. And that's fine. Like that's kind of how things improve. That's kind of how business improves. But I think there's like a big opportunity being missed by not looking at this bigger picture and not looking at what's happening structurally or the reasoning behind stuff or the culture behind stuff or the system behind stuff. The last point I'll make on why this is sort of coming to my head now is when I first came here in 2012, like fitness wasn't really a thing. It wasn't really modern. It was kind of more like the 80s and 90s, like yoga and Jane Fonda, fitness classes, things of that nature. For some reason now, since post-COVID, so let's say 2020 onwards, fitness is kind of cool. Like it looks good on Instagram. So there's a bit of like cred behind this with young people. And you know, even lately I've been getting people that have been interested in like a career in coaching, strength and conditioning, things of that nature. But it's not all hopped up like it seems to be on the internet. You know, behind the scenes, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. And if you're just following trends and like if you think the world's on social media, like I really think you're missing the big points here. So we got question. Fitness looks cool on IG and V and anywhere else. I would say fitness looks cool on social everywhere, and I think this stuff starts in the Western world, perhaps the US, UK, Europe, things of that nature. But like this idea of like a fitness influencer, that's been around since the 2010s, I think, in the US. I think it's just a thing where Vietnam like finally caught onto that wave. And I think it's more so because there's a big generational gap in Vietnam between Gen Z, so let's say 25 and younger, versus let's say 25 and older, but more like 30 and older than here. So I'd say 30 and older in Vietnam, they're a bit more like it's a different generation. And like the young generation coming in now, let's say 25 and under, they grew up on their phones, they grew up like with more access to TV, to YouTube, more modern trends. And in Vietnam, when stuff happens, it happens fast. So we've noticed that in the last like 4 or 5 years. Yeah, for sure. Like now you're seeing it like, like especially, I guess a joke, but you know, if someone doesn't post their workout on their story or make a post about it, like it's like it didn't happen. Like it's like it didn't happen. Right? Okay, so like what is this idea of trends and fad traps? It's kind of hard to explain, so I kind of wrote down some points here. it's this idea of keeping up with the Joneses, right? And like social media does that. Like what you see on social media, like 99% of the time is someone's curated version of what they want to show you. I mean, even what I'm putting out, this is like what I want to show you. Like I'm pretty private. I don't want to show, you know, all these other things that are going on with my life and my family. But because it's like a younger generation that's adopting fast here, like a lot of young people's lives are on social media where it wasn't there before. Like the social media world wasn't there before 2010. Like I remember that world in the 2000s. And I think a problem with that is like the younger generation will think that social is the world. But what I'm trying to say is it's not. There's like many worlds. There's the real world, and there was the real world before there was social. So I didn't even get on Instagram until year 3 PPC, and I already had a business. So what that means is you can have a successful business, successful life, whatever you want to do, and it doesn't even need to involve that. There's lots of opportunity everywhere when it comes to this sort of idea. Okay, what's this other thing? So are there any positive impacts on social media on the fitness world? Absolutely. I think there's a lot of positive impacts of social media on everything. It brings people closer together. So I can have a connection and network people that I couldn't have had before. Like when I tore my MCL and was scared that it was my ACL, like within a week, I'm on a Zoom call, reaching out through people to someone in Australia that I wouldn't have had access to before. When done right, you can share ideas. You can kind of have good debate. You can share these ideas quicker. They'll get more flow. They'll get more energy. They move around faster. So yeah, there is a way that you can connect, and you can use it to learn, but I would not really. You need to learn how to learn if you want to use socials how to learn. There's so much content, so many people, there's so much stuff that you also need to have the skill to decipher like what is good and what is bad and like what's worth spending your time around. And I think that can be difficult because those critical reasoning skills, I don't really think they teach in school and stuff like that. You kind of have to learn it on your own. Okay, so going back to like what this idea is. Okay, so there's this idea, especially in Vietnam, or from in my experience, what I've noticed, it's like, we'll use fitness as an example. The industry will take what worked before and then just make it marginally better. That, like, I've seen dozens of gyms and fitness centers open and close when I've been here 12 years. And that's why I made this comment about seeing some new places open up now. And I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I get proven wrong. But like following the trends on social, what looks good, like purple dark lighting, really good videography, like a wall that looks cool because it has ripples in it, you know, having influencers like create buzz. This stuff's all good and everything, and it can work from a generating awareness sort of thing. If you look at what fitness is, like fitness is a long game. Fitness is it's like a lifestyle change. It's like changing habits. Like if fitness works for someone, they do it for the rest of their lives. When that happens, like that short-term gain, I don't think it has longevity. I don't think people are looking at like what makes fitness successful for people, like actually strength train and like educating people on like the benefits of that. And what is strength training? Like actual strength training with like progressive overload, people like recording down your weights and like increasing every week. I talk about it a lot, but like the majority of people, places, businesses, they just don't do it. It's kind of crazy. It's like right underneath the nose, and then they don't do it. It's really weird. To go along with that statement, they're thinking about the outcomes, they're thinking about the flash, they're thinking about selling, but they're not thinking about the processes and the systems, the culture, the values behind it that will allow it to remain relevant for the foreseeable future. I think I look at myself as an example. I don't think I have flashy buzz. I don't think I have like crazy things that are super cool. Maybe some of like the people that have went through here would think that, oh, Justin, your merch this, I really want to get that, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, I think why I'm good and why we're relevant is that my systems, my processes, my cultures, and my values are good. I consistently get the results that people are looking for. So my training program, systems, stuff all works. I'm really great with people, and we develop a culture where I teach people and then they teach people and then they pay it forward and they're doing it together. It's a community. We help each other and we like each other. And we all want the best for each other. And in the end, like now, a lot of these people that come through PPC are my friends. So it's like a lifestyle in the way. And I think that's why this has worked. And I look at it the exact opposite. I look at it from like the opposite of socials. Like, what is everything that social is not? And I think that's kind of what we're doing okay. What made me talk about like trainers. Like, I don't think people should become trainers. Like, I think young people are coming in now and they see it on Instagram and I think they see it's cool. Maybe they see me and they're like, oh, Justin, what you got going on is so cool. You play basketball, you work with the national team, you got all these clients, you got a pool, you got dogs, I want your life. But they only see like I only have 700 posts on Instagram. It doesn't mean anything. It's curated. It's like what I'm putting on. And then social media will make it look like I'm a success. And I think I do have success. But people don't understand that it's like, I've built this up. Like, I've grinded, I've worked really hard, I've sacrificed. I'm like a 10-year overnight success. Like, so that's why I don't think this system will work for most, and that's why I think 90% of trainers like won't make this as a career. And when I mean career, I mean like 5 years plus, like paying for your family to go to international schools, paying for vacations, like living a life that you want to live. Not just getting by. A job's easy. You can get by on that. So yes, I've ranted and I've talked about this subject. So how do better? What should we focus on? Someone always taught me if I make a complaint, provide a solution. We talked about this one concept before, like focus on stuff, like focus on the right things. Don't let's say, the trend or the fad or the social dictate what your focus is. And I think an easy way to do that is if you're goal setting, start from the end result and then like work your way backwards. Understand like what your whys are, like what's your Northern Star, what's your mission statement. These are short buzzwords, but they're really underrated. What's that thing that you focus on so you say no to all the other distractions? So that's one way to go about it. Judging oneself. So trends and fads and socials, like this goes back to keeping up with the Joneses. Judge yourself on your version of you yesterday. Don't judge yourself on like what you see on socials. It's apples and oranges. It's not the same. It's all different. I can tell you a story of like when I first started being a trainer, when I first started having PPC in like 2013 to 2016. I would go on Instagram, I would go on Facebook, and like, because someone in business told me that I should understand what my competition is doing. So I was like following my competition, seeing what they were doing. And to be honest, it just like pissed me off. Like I didn't agree with what others were doing. We had different philosophies, and I think that's why I set up PPC, to do things on my own. And like just following these things that weren't giving me value, that weren't deposits, it was taking away energy. Like it was an energy suck. It like made me feel stressed and anxious and upset. And when I changed that thinking, when I focused on myself and like focused on like what I could do better from yesterday, from last month, from last year, and then stopped following all these people that I were following, it made me feel much better and less anxious and more fulfilled. And it was funny because I then realized, focus on myself, do the good that you can do, control what you can control, good things will come. That's worked much better for me and people that I've taught than any of the other stuff that I've heard. So that's kind of an interesting thing there. Lastly, I think it's important to seek help, collaborate with people that do provide value, that do align with your mission statements, with your values, stand on the shoulders of giants before you, follow good examples. There are people out there that are going to align with you. Maybe you need to search elsewhere than your current immediate network. For the first 4 or 5 years, I had to look outside Vietnam for mentorship, to stand on the shoulders of giants for help. But that's one of the positives of socials. There is so many people in the world, and we're only a few clicks away now. And if you do it the right way, you can find this sort of help and mentorship and guidance that will help you stay on the path when maybe the path is looking a little bit dark and cloudy and shady. Did you stand on someone's shoulders when you started? If so, who? Yep. When I was at a gym before PPC, there was this older trainer, kind of like me. I still talk to him. Bob, we still talk to each other today. And I think we've been able to mutually benefit and help each other. And he was at this gym, he was leaving. I think he saw like my work ethic or whatever, he saw something about me. And he's like, hey, like, I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna pass you on to these clients, blah, blah, blah. And then I got one client, got 20 clients, got 30 clients, and then I got my start. So yeah, I stood on those shoulders. I stood on the shoulders of my parents. I probably wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for them. So I stood on their shoulders. I stood on P3 shoulders, using their name and their brand with their permission. I think that's given me credibility in the sports world to the point where it all works. And then nowadays, like if I'm looking at something that's outside of my spectrum, I'm quite fortunate that I have a vast network of clients and friends that I can reach out to if I need anything. And actually, like I think I've said this before, but you know, any good thing and worthwhile thing that people succeed at usually involve some form of help, mentorship from others. You can't do things alone. Okay, cool, we'll leave it at that.